All right, today's quarantine cuisine is going to be a bacon and spinach quiche, and I'm gonna start by making the pie crust. So I found a simple pie crust recipe online, and so it calls for 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. You always want to level off the measuring cup. Okay, 2.5 cups flour and a teaspoon and a quarter salt. So you just start with that. And to that, I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of butter that's cold and cubed. And 3/4 of a cup of vegetable shortening. Okay. My other bit of butter here. That's what happens when you're constantly using different recipes and amounts of things. Yeah, so quiche is one of my favorite things to make. If you're like me, you find that breakfast foods can really be an anytime food. And so quiche is great because you can really eat it any time of day. And anything with a nice little crust is always going to be a good time. All right, so then we're going to just kind of pulse this a little bit. And then the real magic happens. So if you can see here, I have like a silicone mat. And what's really good is it has the circles already on it, and so you can measure out exactly how much or how big of a circle of dough you need. Okay. So once it's starting to be crumbly, for the liquid in the crust, this recipe calls for 1/2 cup of ice cold water, but the recipe, sometimes they come with like a blog entry that usually I skip over, but I saw the word vodka and that paused me. So it was saying that if you split the liquid into part water and part cold vodka, it makes for a flakier pie crust. So I'm gonna try that today. So this is a 1/4 cup of chilled vodka that I'm gonna add to that, and then I'm gonna measure out a 1/4 cup of ice cold water to add. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that just speaks to me, but I was like, what about vodka? What are we doing? So in addition to this quiche, I'm taking a page out of my girl Ina Garten's book and also going to be making a cocktail later on. Because now we've gone from making like an intro to like full-fledged, full episode status. All right, so this looks awesome. And so I'm gonna put the dough out here. Ugh, there is nothing like a good dough of any kind. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a big weirdo, but for the 3 people that will be watching this later, I'm sure it'll be entertaining. Okay. So then so then we want to just kind of fold it. We want to make sure that all the butter and stuff gets all in there. When working with like pie dough or pastry dough, you want to try not to overwork it and make sure it still stays a little cold, because then if the butter starts to melt, then you got a problem. Okay, so then I'm just gonna slice this guy in half, because we're gonna make 2 discs out of it. This means that the video will, so we're gonna chill that for at least an hour, ideally like 2 hours. Isn't it funny how loud everything is? They make it look so easy on the Food Network. All right, so this is going in the fridge. We're gonna work on the filling of the quiche, which is spinach is part of it. So I'm gonna start with a little bit of olive oil in a pan. Oh, I don't know if you can see behind me, but this is my Belle apron. Isn't it beautiful? Because I'm such a princess. Shout out to my sister for making me that. But who needs an apron right now? Okay, so once the oil is starting to get a little warm, I have a little bin of spinach here. So I'm gonna use about half of this container. Probably ends up being like, I guess like a cup of raw spinach. And the best thing, I think, about this entire video is going to be this. This is Pat the Spatula. There is an Instagram account called Trader Joe's List, and it's run by a girl who shops Trader Joe's and is constantly posting about like all the fun things that they have to offer there. And she sells these, and it's male Pat on one side, and then it's got some eyelashes on the other side and some hair, depending on your mood, but it's a happy spatula. So that was obviously necessary. So some of these spinach leaves are much larger than I thought. So as they start to cook down, I'll probably chop them up a little bit, but it probably would have been easier to chop them before putting them in the pan. But you know what? When you're not a professional and you just make things up as you go, you just gotta go with the flow, right? Isn't that this whole time? It's just figuring things out that you didn't know before. Really doing well. So I guess while we're waiting for the spinach to cook, we could have a chat. So if you haven't known me long, you might not know that I've always loved to cook, but if you've known me like a good part of my life, not only have I always found myself in the kitchen for various occasions. When I was like in third or fourth grade, that was when the Food Network first like became a thing. It was when it first started. And I was absolutely mesmerized by these people. And that's what I would watch when I came home from school. And I just was, you know, I loved it so much. And so I, for a very long time, I wanted to be a chef. That was my goal. And then I found theater in middle school and it was all over. But, I've still always really loved cooking. My dad loved cooking, and I have a lot of really, really nice memories of him in the kitchen. And you know, I've learned a lot about cooking from cooking with him and my grandmother. You know, and my mom is a really good cook too. I've learned more about baking from my mom just because she was definitely more of the baker than my dad, except for bread, because you know, Raymond Garreau and his bread is a thing. But you know, I've always found cooking to be not just therapeutic, but I always like cooking for other people, which is probably one of the hardest things about this quarantine situation is you know, I'm used to like baking some new thing and then bringing it right to work and sharing it with my coworkers. One, so that I don't eat an entire baked good, and two, just because to me it's always like a sign of love, to share food. So, you know, if we can't share it in real life, I might as well turn, you know, this kitchen into my own personal TV show, I guess. That's the thing we're doing now. So spinach cooks down a lot, so I'm adding more from the bin, because, you know, that's what we're doing. So I'm cooking the spinach first before I make the egg mixture, because I always like to let, if I'm cooking something first, I always like to let it cool a little bit, because otherwise the eggs will start to cook when you mix it all together, and you don't want that, because it can kind of scramble the eggs instead of letting it become that like beautiful custard in a quiche. So the only thing that like I probably would add to this that I don't currently have, I'd probably put like a shallot in here with the spinach, or some sort of onion, just to give another like layer to the quiche. But I don't currently have onion or shallot. And then I am going to add a little bit of garlic paste. I do it like the makeup YouTubers, like garlic paste. Been by myself for way too long. So just like a little squeeze of that. Because I also currently do not have fresh garlic either. A little bit of kosher salt. And fresh ground pepper, you know, the staple of really kind of any recipe. Can't go wrong with a little salt and pepper, you know? Okay, so now, right here. That's doing its job. So we got our spinach is cooked, and I'm going to just kind of rough chop it a little bit with the spatula now that it's like cooked down a little bit. And then I'm going to take it off the heat and just kind of let it hang out there and cool down a little bit. Okay, so my pie crust is chilled. I'm going to there we go. I have it on a floured surface, and starting from the center, I'm gonna roll it out. I'm gonna roll it out into the 12-inch situation here. I'm gonna be baking it in a 9-inch pan, but you obviously want the crust to go all the way up around the edges and for all that flaky goodness. Whoop. So I have also used, they sell like they're frozen pie crust. It comes in like a little aluminum tin. And those work really well for quiche. And they're very easy to use. You know, it's just a different kind of time. Normally I would just like go stop at the store if I wanted to make something specific and get all those things, but obviously we're not going into a store unless we absolutely have to, which we don't have to for this situation. So I'm just going to turn it over and roll a little bit on the other side. Anyway, also like in the refrigerated section, like the Pillsbury pre-done pie crust is also great. Well, you know, we're gonna be a little fancy in quarantine, right? All right. Ooh. Glass on glass. So I got my pie pan. Oop, and we just broke a little bit. That's okay. we got right. Whew. Doing okay, doing okay. You know, look, if anything, you just got to make it work, right? Also, I'm the only one that's going to be eating this, so it doesn't really matter if it comes out messed up, because, you know. So, I'm gonna, sometimes you got to just take from one end and put it on the other. As much as I like to pretend I'm like pretty fancy, I feel like I end up being more rustic in my endeavors than put together, but that's fine. If it tastes good, who cares, right? Okay. Then I'm gonna kind of just duck this under, and this pie pan has like a little divot in it, so I'm just gonna kind of push it in there. And so when you are using any kind of like raw pie dough, you want to do what's called like a blind bake, which means you bake it without a filling. So I'm gonna just poke like a couple of holes in it. Typically you weigh it down with, sell these things called like pie weights or like dried beans. I have neither of those. So I'm going to just kind of press foil into the bottom and I'm going to just use like another baking dish in there to kind of weigh it down, because you don't want it to rise so much that you can't fill it. And then so I'm going to put this in a 400-degree oven for about 15-ish minutes. So it starts to just bake a little bit before I put the egg mixture in. It's really fun cheese grater cup situation. And I have some little block of cheese here. I'm gonna just grate some cheese. And this is nice because it goes right in and kind of everywhere else, but you know, we'll clean up later. Goes right into a measuring cup. So if you're looking for a specific amount of something that you're grating, it's kind of nice because it's contained pretty well. It had a bunch of different tops though with like the different size grates, and I'm only down to this one, so I'm gonna have to find either like replacement tops or maybe just like a new one altogether. But I don't know, there's something very therapeutic about grating cheese for me. So yeah, we've got a good solid like 3/4 of a cup cheese there. A little snack along the way never hurt, right? All right. Where's my cue? Beat, because we're gonna beat the eggs. So I have 5 eggs in here, and I'm gonna add just a second. Add 3/4 of a cup heavy cream. And then also some salt and pepper. Whisk. So what I probably should have done, I probably should have beat the eggs first before I put in the cream, just because sometimes the yolks are a little harder to break up once you've poured the cream in. But so this is going to make the custard-like consistency that we all love about a good quiche. If you've made it this far into my little show here, I just like to say thank you. This is mainly for my own entertainment, but you know, if it gives you something to do too, I feel like it's worth it. Oh, I also, the eggs were room temperature, so that it's not as an aggressive change from being like ice cold in the fridge to cooking in the oven. It mixes a little bit better with the cream. All right, so that's good. And then we're almost ready to put the whole thing together. All right, it is time to put it all together. Woo! All right, I mean, it puffed up a little bit more than it probably would have if I had those baking weight things, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. So I have lowered the oven to 350. The crust has to cook at a higher temperature. And now we start to build. So I'm going to start by putting the spinach in the bottom. Just spreading it out a little bit. And then I have some chopped up pre-cooked bacon. Because, you know, we're going to go for it. And then I'm going to add in my egg mixture. This is looking super yummy. And then we're going to top it off with our cheese here. And then I'm going to pop this back in the oven for about 15 minutes to an hour. It'll probably be closer to 50 minutes for me. The only thing I don't love about my kitchen is that I have an electric stove and oven, and I find that gas gives you a more even cook on a lot of things. So this fun guy right here, this is a pie crust shield, and so what this does, it kind of helps keep the edge of the crust from overcooking while the rest of the quiche cooks. There we go. Got a little silicone there. Oop, that was hot. Okay. So popping this guy back in the oven, and we'll see it when it comes out. Moment of truth. Look at that. I have to say, guys, This came out better than I expected it to. A little glance over. See the cheese kind of made a little crust on the top and bacon's peeking through. Yeah, no, I would say this came out pretty well. Okay, we are gonna make a really fun cocktail. It is an elderflower pink lemonade. A little bougie, but you know, it's very tasty. So I'm gonna start. I have this pink lemonade vodka, which is delightful and cute and pink. So I'm gonna do 2 ounces of that. And in the shaker, I have some ice already. 2 ounces of that. And then we're gonna do just a 1/2 ounce of the elderflower liqueur. It's a little strong, so a little goes a long way, but it does give a nice little texture, I don't know, flavor. And then just like a teensy tiny bit of simple syrup. A little drop in there. And make sure this is on nice and tight. And we're gonna shake for at least 30 seconds. Making a little bit of a mess, but you know, as one does. And then I'm gonna pour that over ice. And then, ooh, that was really loud. It's gonna be so good. And then top it off with some club soda. And we're gonna add some fresh lemon slices. And there you have it, elderflower pink lemonade. So thanks for watching my first full, I don't know, cooking show thing. If you made it through to the end of this, you are either just as bored as I am or a true friend. And either way, I thank you, I love you, and I'm probably gonna do another one of these.